Hello, class. Welcome to week 2 of Design 244, Packaging Design. This week, we are going to be learning and understanding the natural flow and hierarchy of packaging, learning and understanding something about Gestalt psychology in visual perception. And to that particular point, I would like to mention that in our announcements, I have left you links to go in and check out Gestalt psychology online, and saved you a little bit of time by actually providing you with a number of links that you can go in and read about this particular topic. You're going to learn how to understand how to map package information and artwork onto your three-dimensional surface. I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of that later on tonight. We're going to be doing a lot of little things tonight that will give you some help with the work that you're going to do. You'll learn a little bit more about the requirements for food packaging. The week 2 discussion, you're going to be designing a package for a herbal tea company, recognizing patterns and trends in design for specific product categories. What you want to do is look up and read about herbal tea. Now, it does tell you a number of things about how to look up herbal tea, but my personal feeling is that you'll probably have an easier time if you just Google search this and avoid having to go to the library and look up research books and stuff like that. You probably will have no trouble whatsoever finding everything that you need if you just Google the topic. Discuss these findings, then how they might influence your project design. Now, since we're talking about discussions here, and this is not for everybody because a number of you had your discussions perfectly executed. But I do want to point out that a number of you made some mistakes when you were working on your discussion, and I would like to talk very briefly about that so that hopefully I could get everybody doing the proper thing with their discussions so that you can earn all your credits. I mean, this is a very easy thing to do, and the credits are easy credits if you do them right. The important thing is that your initial post must be in no later than the end of the day on Wednesday. It's absolutely essential you get that post in by the end of the day Wednesday. If not, you're going to lose points, which makes no sense because this is relatively easy to do. Now, the next thing is, since this is a discussion, you are also required to make at least 2 different replies to your fellow students. Now, a number of you waited till the very last minute, 12 hours, 8 hours, and even a few of you were late. Some of you didn't do it at all, and you lose points. Now, here's the important thing. This is a discussion, and everybody, you want to give everybody the opportunity to interact and to respond to you. So what you want to do is you want to go in and you want to give 2 replies to people and try to do this on different days. I mean, you're talking about something where you could log in and within 20 minutes, 15 minutes, you could have your reply done, and then you're out for the night and come back the next day, log in and do your reply to another one, and you're done. And now you've met the absolute proper requirements on this, and I'm going to be able to give you your full credit for your discussion post. So I'm pointing this out specifically because there were quite a few of you that didn't really follow this. It is also, there's a rubric that I put into the course week 1. You can go check the rubric out. It tells you very specifically how you should be doing all this stuff. And, again, I'm an instructor. It's my job to make sure that you guys do the right thing the right way and give you the credit. So when I see problems like this, I want to mention the problem so that you have every opportunity to get the best grades you can possibly get. So please, again, Wednesday, by the end of the day, get your initial post in for full credit. The 2 replies, you can do 1 reply on Wednesday if you'd like, and then 1 on Thursday, and that would meet the requirement. Or 1 on Thursday and 1 on Friday, that would meet the requirement. Please do not wait till the end, because now stop and think about this. If everybody were to just wait until 8 hours or 10 hours before the end of the week, what kind of a discussion is that? There's no discussion. Nobody really gets a chance to respond to anything. And I'm not saying that that's the way it would go, but that's sort of like the idea behind it. You don't wait to the end of the week to make your replies to students. So please keep that in mind. The next thing that we're going to be talking about, well, actually, I've talked about all this, so I'm going to just briefly say, be sure to post no later than Wednesday of the current week. After that, it will be marked late points taken. For student replies, please be sure to give at least 2 individual student replies on separate days and allow enough time for them to reply back to you. Essentially, avoid posting late or last minute. So there you go. Week 2, assignment. This is where we actually begin to do some creative stuff, and I hope that you're going to find this fun. What I want you to do is I want you to look online and do some research regarding packaging, specifically targeting packaging for tea. Because I'll tell you, you are going to be able to go online and find packaging examples for tea. And it's probably a good idea before you actually begin the process of building your own tea package design and layout, you take a look at what other people are doing. Then you're going to create a package design for either a real or a created tea company, make-believe tea company. And I don't really care whether you make one up or whether you actually go in and rebrand a tea manufacturer's product. It's totally up to you how you do this. And if you want, you can make up a flavor, or you can just pick a flavor. Again, when you're doing your research, you can see that there's a number of different flavors you could use. And frankly, I mean, I use creativity. Have fun with this. This is something I had fun when I did mine, believe it or not. I thought it was a lot of fun. Be creative, and I want you to use the die line that you created last week in your project. So if you're still working on your die line, get the die line done, because the bottom line is you're going to be using it to create this. And keep in mind that you need to show where the package is going to die cut, and you're also going to want to indicate where there are any bleeds involved. You can actually use the die line to crop the bleed and just present it as a proof or a printer look at your package. But the bottom line is you want to make sure that you are aware of the fact that in order for your package, in order for color or elements to go off the page, they have to go into the bleed area, which is approximately 1/8 of an inch beyond the actual package itself, in order for this to be correct. So again, these are very important points and very important things for you to know about. Just like this in any kind of a brochure or a flyer, if you're going to run something off the page, you got to bleed it. You have to make sure that there's a certain amount of space for it to bleed. These are things that you absolutely must do from a technical and production standpoint. I guess that's it. Oh, here, I'm sorry. Did I get this one? The hang tag. Yeah, the hang tag. Okay, so the week 2 assessment, what you're going to be doing is 2 things. You're going to be creating a hang tag and a label. And I'm going to show you a couple examples that I created of hang tags and labels and how they how they work. So you're going to create a hang tag. There is actually in the let's see, where is it? I think it's somewhere in your module, in your assessment module. There are links where you can download files that you're going to use, Adobe Illustrator files that you're going to use to create the hang tag and the label. So you're going to actually create these hang tags. Again, I'm going to demonstrate that. And the other thing that you're going to be doing for your assessment is create a label. So really 2 other things besides the actual package that you're going to create. You're going to ultimately create the packaging, the hang tag, and the label. And the hang tag and the label, I believe, is for a wine project that you're going to be working on next week. So, but it is all explained in your course assessment area, just as the assignment is very well explained in the assignment area. And again, don't forget, I've placed in the announcements my timeline, my hours for Blackboard this week. If you guys want to come in and get a little bit of help from me, or if you want a critique on something that you're doing, please feel free to stop by, and I'll be more than happy to have a look at what you're doing and help you any way that I can. So that ends my PowerPoint presentation for the night. So I'm going to close this out. And now I'm in the announcements. And what I wanted to do here is wanted to start off by, oh, by the way, let me go back to announcements. Here is the Gestalt Psychology and Visual Perception link that I was telling you about. There's actually several in here. And then the links for week 2, I'm going to click on this. Oh, my Blackboard Collaborate schedule. There's my Blackboard Collaborate schedule. So it's right there for you if you want to go and check it out. Links to week 2, I have 2 of them. Photos of T and vector images for T. So I'm going to click on both of these because I want to talk to you a little bit about what they are and how they're going to help you. And then I'm going to work on a couple of things for you to give you an idea of how you can go in and do something valuable for your project with these elements. Let's start off by checking out the vector images of T. So I'm going to click on that. And here is the vector elements for T. Essentially, where we are is, I guess this is Yahoo search in this particular case. And I'm under images. And as you can see, there's just a ton of different images in here that all relate to T. And, you know, you'll scroll down and you'll see there's many, 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 many of these things. And then even down here, you can click and there are more of them. So, you know, you can just go through here and take a look at them. And what you're looking for, let's see if I can locate the one that I'm working on. I'm not sure I will, but I'll take a second to try to do that. And let's see. I know it's here. It's just I'm not exactly sure where I found it in here. I wonder if I passed it. Just close to it right there, but that's not it. It's not that important, really. I mean, I was just going to try to show you the one that I picked. But I'll tell you what. You know what? Just for the heck of it, let me grab this one because this is the same basic idea. So what you get is something like this. Okay? And again, all you got to do is, if you're on a PC, you're going to right-click this and you're going to save the image. And that's essentially what I did for mine. And I'll show you what I did with it shortly. But let me get back to this. Let's go and take a look at photos of T. Okay? So now here what you have are photographs that you can use on your packaging of T. There's really a whole lot of them on here, and I'm sure that if, again, we looked hard enough, I would be able to find the images that I use. There's some really beautiful things here that would make great backgrounds or great motifs that you could use. And again, you can open it up and get more selections here, and you can go on and on with this. The important thing is that you're, even though this is a mock-up, you want to make sure that these things are big enough. So you see down here, let me show you. See down here where it says 1,366 by 768? That's how big this is in pixels. So this is a decent size image. Let's see how big this one is. This one is 450 by 384. So this is a much smaller image. So what you're looking for really is you're looking for a larger one. See, this is a nice big one. If this was something that you like, this is 2,800 by 2,100. That's a nice big image. So what you're looking for before you download is the size of your images. You want something bigger for this, okay? You don't want small little images. If I can find a small one, that's a decent size one too. Many of these are pretty good size. That's good. This one here, 800 by, see, that's again kind of small. This one here, I think maybe be small. Yeah, look at now. You see 283 by 424. You don't want that image. It's a nice image. If you like it, it's tough darts. You can't use it. It's too small. That's the important thing for you before you start downloading these images. Check to make sure that they're nice, big images. Anything bigger than this, 1366, anything in that range right there. See, now that one, 376 by by 250. That's too small. Stay away from it. Here's another one, 1600, not too bad. 1900 by, this is a good size. So that's the important thing. It's not nearly as important when you're talking about the vectors, because you can actually take them into Illustrator, and I'm going to show you how to turn them into vector files. But this you're not going to do that with. So you want to make sure that you get a nice size image when you're working on this. This is not going to be printed in the end. This is really just a mock-up for your design education purposes. So again, get a nice size image if you want. Stay away from these smaller images. And be sure, before you start downloading any of these images, be sure that you actually physically check them out and see what sizes they are. I mean, you just don't want to, this one, look at the size of that. That's not a particularly exciting picture, but look at the size of it, 3872. Beautiful big size. That's what you're looking for, okay? So I don't want to beat a dead dog. The bottom line is that I've given you links. One is for photos of tea that you're going to use on your packaging, and the other is vector images of tea. Now, what do I use the vector images for? Let's go into Photoshop, and I'll show you. This is my element that I created. As you can see, look, this is a vector object. See? I'm just taking this and moving them all around. So edit, undo, undo, and undo. So I now have a vector object. And I'm going to jump over to the next one, and you can see my next step after, and I think this is a slightly different one, but don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. This is the symbol that I use. This is what's known as a combination mark. When you have a combination of elements, type, color type, and symbols, that's a combination mark. So that's what this banner or title for this product is, a combination mark. And I did that again by creating from my symbol here. I created the symbol, which I then worked into the title. So how did I create this thing? Because obviously I didn't get this from the internet this way. Well, let me go to the File menu, and let's go Open. Or let's go New. I'm sorry, go New. Yeah, and I'm just going to call this symbol. I'm just going to leave it this size for now. It doesn't matter the size at this point. And I'm going to go File, Place. And inside of my Week 2 assignment folder, which is inside of DES 244 packaging, I have this guy right here, which is #1 tillustration.jpg. So it's a bitmap, and I'm going to hit Place. And don't worry about that. So now I'm going to click, and there I have my symbol. Okay? This is what this symbol looks like when I got it off the web. Okay? So if you take a look at this thing, it's a mess. And if you were to use it this way, it wouldn't be particularly attractive looking. So the key to this is to use the power of Adobe Illustrator to turn this into a vector shape that you can work with. And believe it or not, Adobe Illustrator is extremely good at doing stuff like this. Now, can it change every bitmap? Because that's what this is. A JPEG is a bitmap, which means essentially all the shapes, there's no vector involved in this. They're all just little bits of information. And that's why the edge is sort of blurry like you see there, because it is that bitmap. And that's why they have this element over top of it. You know, it's sort of like that ghost or that identity mark over top of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this object, and I'm going to go to the Object menu. So with the object selected, I go to Object, and I come down to Image Trace. Now, I don't know whether you guys have done anything with image tracing or not, but Object, Image Trace, Make. And you get something like this, which doesn't look particularly good. So what I'm going to do here is I can come to the Image Trace panel. There's actually a panel in here. And there's a number of ways that I could do this. I could come in here and I could change it to color. But I discovered something that's kind of interesting. I discovered that if I take the threshold on this particular object, and if I click on the threshold, and if I drag the threshold way up here, look at that. You see how beautiful that thing comes out? Now, of course, it comes out in black and white, so I'm going to have to figure out the color scheme of it. But I mean, my God, in a matter of seconds, not even, I've got this logo looking beautiful. And I haven't even played around with any of this stuff. All I did was using black and white. In this particular logo, I bumped the threshold up to 217. If I keep going, what's going to happen is it's going to start to break down. See how it's going to start to break down? So I now can back this thing up until I hit right at the point where it's going to read this beautifully. And you know what? I'm at 223, 217 is where I was before. That looks terrific. So now I'm going to close this thing, and I'm going to go to Object, Image Trace, Expand. And look at this. Now I've turned this thing into a vector shape. Now the only thing I got to do are a couple of little minor tweaks to get this thing finished. First thing I'm going to do is with the object selected, I'm going to go to Object, Ungroup. And the reason I'm doing that is because one of the things that it does is it creates this background area of white. If I were to click on this and change it into a color, you'll see what I'm talking about. Can you see what it did? It did. It's because it's in grayscale right now. But if I were to come into my colors, let's go into my colors, go to Window and go to Color, and let's change this from grayscale to RGB. There you go. Now it's in RGB, and that's blue. So you see what's happening here? It's creating this background, which I don't want at all. So I'm going to delete that, and now I'm left with this and this junk at the bottom. If I come over here and marquee that and delete that, I'm left with this, which is the symbol that I want. Now, the swatches panel opened up here, and I'm glad that it did because I want to talk to you about the swatches panel. You're going to use the swatches panel a lot. And one of the things that I think is absolutely essential for any graphic designer to do when they're working on a project in any of these programs, whether it be Illustrator, Photoshop, or InDesign, doesn't matter. One of the most important things for you to do is to control your environment. And one of the ways that you can control your environment is by taking the swatches panel and cleaning out all these colors, which are default colors. These are the colors that are there every time you open up any document. They're always there. Not that there's anything wrong with them per se, but usually when you are working on a project, you probably have a color scheme in mind. And I think the bottom line is what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to work within your color scheme and not work with all these colors, and you certainly don't want them all there. So what I usually do is I come up here, I make sure nothing is selected on my desktop. That's the important thing. I come into my drop-down menu, and I choose Select All Unused. And you can see how they all highlight. Okay, now there's one here that doesn't highlight for some reason, so I'm going to hold down the Shift key and click on that, and actually it's not even letting me do that. All right, well, now I'll fix that in a minute. So I'm going to come over here and click on the Delete Swatch. And do I want to delete the swatches? Of course I do. So I hit yes. And see, now they're all gone. And if I click that and hit delete, yes, what I'm left with is I'm left with the None button, which you really can't delete. I got this color here, which is essentially a black, but it's a registration black, and we don't use that. We use regular white and black. Those are the other two colors. I can actually throw these colors away, but I don't bother. I leave those colors alone. So now what I want to do is I want to get the colors that I want to use for this. And frankly, the colors that exist in the original piece, I liked. So I wanted to use that. So in order to get those colors, since I can do that very easy, I'm just going to go File, and I'm going to go Place again, and I'm going to come back and grab my Vector T illustration piece and hit Place, and don't worry about that for now, and then click, and I'll place this guy in here again, all right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that little piece in the center, and with the eyedropper tool, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click, and look it, I get that color. See it? I get it there, and I get it there. There's the color that I'm using. Oh, and by the way, since I had this selected, it automatically fills that color. Now I can come right over to here, and I can go New Swatch. And I can name this thing, so I'm going to call this T, Okay, and I'll call this T green. And it's a process color, which is what I want, because this is actually going to be a process project, so I don't want to change that. The other option is spot color, but we're not using spot color tonight. We're using process color. Okay, you can click global, which makes it a global color. And then the other thing is you got a color mode here. You got grayscale, RGB, HSB, CMYK Lab, and WebSafe RGB. WebSafe RGB and RGB are what you use if you're going to be working on work for the web. In this particular case, hue, saturation, and brightness is just another mode that I use when I want to play around with color in a different way. But the color that we're looking for is the CMYK color. So we're going to leave that on CMYK. And then I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit OK. And now if you look here, there's T green. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and click on this, come over with my eyedropper tool, and I'll click maybe here. And now I've got that green right there. This is the other green. So I'm going to right-click on that and put new swatch in here, and I'll call this other green. Oops. Other green. Other green. Again, process color, CMYK, and hit OK. And now I'm just going to select this guy right here, choose other green, and now I can delete this guy because I don't need it anymore. And what I've done essentially is I've taken the element that I downloaded from the web, and by selecting it, it's a bitmap when it comes in, object, live trace, or sorry, image trace, make, and then open up the image trace dialog box and play around with the settings. In the particular case of this, I just basically up the threshold, and I got a beautiful, I mean, look at that. Look at how clean that looks. I mean, that's amazing that it can actually do that. So most any element that you have in there, by going in an object, live tracing it, you can get this thing to look like that. So again, you compare this to that guy right there, and you can see they look exactly the same. And then, of course, I just basically, from there, went to the next logical step, which was to come in here and produce my my title for my project, my T-Box. Now, there's a couple of other things that I want to talk about before I actually show the T-Box. There's the T-Box. We'll get back to that in a minute. There are a couple of elements in here that I want you guys to be aware of. It's very important that you know these elements must be used. You can also find links to these in the assignment. And one of them is this barcode right here. I want to show you a little bit of something about this barcode. I want to talk about it very briefly. So I'm going to start off by clicking a rectangle, and I'm going to drag a rectangle across the back of this thing. Okay, and I'm going to remove the stroke and make the fill dark blue. Hit OK. Object, arrange, send to back. I want you to see what's going on here. This is kind of important. So first of all, the barcode is made up of individual elements that were probably built in a vector program, very much like Adobe Illustrator. Now, it probably wasn't Adobe Illustrator that did it, but anyway, this is the key. It was done in a vector program. So you got vector shapes. Now, one of the most important things for you to understand is that vectors, or I'm sorry, barcodes like to have a background of white in order for them to work. So it's very important for you not to put barcodes over color like this. I'm putting it over color so I could demonstrate what it looks like. What I generally do when I take a barcode like this is I generally create a shape just like you have here, and I scale the shape until it is just a slight bit bigger than the element. And you know what? I got to go to the View menu and snap to grid, and view, snap to point, remove the snap on it so I can actually move this a little bit better, I think. Yeah, there we go. And move it to about there. And then over here, let's see if I can scroll over a bit. All right. And drag this over to about like that. All right. And this even could come down just a tiny bit, like about like that. Okay, so now you see what this background looks like. except of course that this background is in blue and we want it to be white. So we're going to click on basic, default fill and stroke, and then I'm going to remove the stroke, and now I'm going to end up with white. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select everything on here, and I'm going to go Object Group. So now what I have basically is I have my barcode with a white background. So when I go to save this thing and put it into my work later on, no matter what I put it against, it's guaranteed to have the white area that I need around it. I'll select it and you can see what I'm talking about. I click on this. There, you can see there's the white area. So it's guaranteed to have a white area that I need around this, because you really have to have that barcode against white. You don't want that to be against a color. Very, very important that you know that. And then, of course, you can come in and you can save this file, save as, and you can save this thing. You can save it actually as an Adobe Illustrator file and use it, but there's two other files that I generally use. In this particular case, though, I would probably just save it as an Illustrator file, because you're going to be building your elements in Illustrator. You're going to build your packaging. You cancel for a second. You're actually going to build your T-box in Adobe Illustrator. As a matter of fact, check this out. I'll show you. There's my barcode. Can you see what I'm talking about? This barcode essentially is placed over top of a green area. A green panel is what it is. So now I've created this mortise of white that surrounds that barcode. So if that barcode runs over a scanner, because it's against the white, it'll have no trouble reading this. That's why I do it. And that's why I'm spending time telling you this, because, you know, as a graphic designer, there are things that you need to learn. And who's going to teach you that but me? I mean, you got to know these things, and you need somebody who's going to teach you this, you know? So again, that's why I tell you these things. All right, so let's go back to the barcode. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to set up your barcode like that, and you're going to save it. And you could actually, you know, copy this, go edit copy, and then go into your T-box, and let's go view fit all in window, and let's go edit paste. And there's your barcode. I'm going to just drag it off to the side there, and you see what it looks like? Look at this. See what it looks like? It's mortised. There's a white area mortised around it. So you don't have to worry about it. If you do this, you don't have to worry about it. It's already done for you. But it is absolutely essential for you to know that there should be a white area around your barcode in order to keep it from getting confused. The scanner needs to see the absolute black lines against something completely neutral like white. Okay? So again, very important that you know this. And okay, so that's the barcode. We're done with that. And required elements. The other required elements that we have are these elements here. Now here's the barcode, but again, if I'm not mistaken, this barcode does not have a white background on it. You see, there's no white background. So that's why I'm pointing this out to you, because there is no white background. Now this guy here, I don't know whether it has a background either. So let's take a look at that, because that would be the next issue. Let's come in here, let's remove that, and let's make that a color as well. Okay, so now I'm going to drag out the shape here. Object, arrange, send to back. And see, now this has a white area. So this has already been mortised for you. So you don't actually have to do it on this one. My guess is that this one would be the same. Yes, and both of them are. Okay? And so you don't really have to do that on these three, but you do have to do it on that. See what I mean? So keep that in mind. That's why I wanted to point that out to you. I would use the white mortise background on these elements. I think they also help quite a bit for readability. So that's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to use these things, and you're going to want to size them appropriately. And then the other thing that you have down here is you have these recycling elements. You can either go with the white version, you can either go with the black version, you could go with the green version, something like this, or if you want, you could actually play around with color on this particular one. If I'm not mistaken, you can just come in here and select that guy right there. Actually, you'll have to select it with the group selection tool because it's grouped. But if you get the group selection tool, you can click on this and you can put a color in the fill. All right? And I mean, just don't make the color too ridiculously outrageous. That's all I ask you. Ask of you. But you know, please feel free to actually go in and play around with color if that's what you want to do. All right, it's totally up to you to do that. What else we got here? There's something back there. What's back there? Come on. Symbols. I think that's oh, that's that guy. Okay. All right. All right. And so that's that. Those are the elements that are being supplied to you. Those are the elements that you need for your tee box. So this is the tee box. And I mean, basically by now, I think you should have a little bit of an idea of what this is here now. I mean, essentially, it's a tee box that I built in exactly the same way that you built yours. There's a couple of things that I want to point out to you. It's very important that you know, and that is that, for instance, notice that in certain areas, like right here, see now this is what's known as a flap. This is what folds the piece inside itself and helps the box fold up. I want you to see that the background of the top panel, I've let it spill about 1/8 of an inch over onto that flap. The reason I do that is because, and you'll notice too, I also have bleed out here, which I've got hidden, and over here is actually, I need to drag that out a little bit, but the reason I have this thing going over onto that flap a little bit, I don't go over the whole thing, just a little bit, is because when this gets folded up, there could be a little bit of deviation in the positioning where this thing folds. And without that flap, if I just had that color, let's see if I can get it. Now, I think it might be locked. Let's go to the layers. Let's see where we at. Is it? No, it's not locked. I guess it's, I'm not sure why it's not letting me. No, I don't know. Not sure why it's not letting me select it. Anyway, what I was going to say is if I had this thing right to that edge right there and it was a little bit crooked, a little bit that way, or a little bit that way, actually a little bit this way, you'd have a white line in here. It would look very unattractive. It would be unappealing. So, you know, you'll notice I do it there. I'll come down, and you'll see I do it over here as well. See? I've got it actually spilling a little bit of the way onto this panel as well. I've also got it on that panel a little bit. So anywhere, see, there's a tab here and there's a tab here. So I've done it there. There's a tab here. Anywhere that I have a tab where the actual, look, and I did it with this graphic as well. Anywhere that graphic appears, it's going to go off the edge or it's going to go onto the side panel. So if I go to the View menu, Fit Artboard and Window, you can see that it's happening all over the place. And the reason I'm doing that is to make sure that when I actually produce this, I get a nice, very clean, to the edge representation of what the panel is supposed to look like. And it'll end up looking like this. I don't want any white edges there, making that, spoiling the look of the piece. So this is my tee box. And just so that you know, even though the tee box that I used, it basically was a square, the tee box didn't have these graphics on it. I actually just basically created these graphics the way I wanted, just like I created the Tisani tea, herbal teas. I created that myself, and I used the element. You could see I used the element that I showed you how I just put together. I decided that most of the box would be this nice green color. And then on the front and the back panel, front panel, I have this really appealing picture, which again, I found online at that site. and it was a nice size image, so it looks very clean and very sharp because it was big enough that I could reduce it down and crop it and get it just the way I wanted. So really, the whole thing comes down to presentation. And then the back, I found another really nice image of just basically tea leaves, and I dropped the panel over this, and what I did with the panel was I created a box, and I put text in the box, and then I inset the text ever so slightly using the text frame options. And then I took the actual background of that box and I made it somewhat transparent so that you could see a little bit through. Didn't go too transparent, but just enough so that you could see a little bit through that background. So, and then these elements were just basically placed on here. And then using the color scheme that I was working with. Okay, now I don't know whether I had the colors worked out in this one. No, actually I did. And I have a few other colors on here because I actually went a little bit further with this. When I took my box apart, there were a number of different elements that I found on the box, on the hidden flaps. And I built them so that you could see them. Not that you actually have to do that, but you do have boxes that you took apart. I assume that you do. And if you take a look at those boxes, you're going to find these elements. These are printer marks. These are marks that the printers put on there, and it doesn't mean anything to you or me, but it means something to the printer. And when the box is all folded up, you don't even see them. But I put them there because I wanted you to know that when you take these things apart, these things exist, and you'll probably see them there, you know. So that's it. That's my package. And again, I used the color scheme. I tried to stick with colors that related to my colors. I went and found pictures and went with colors that complemented the pictures, and where I used like a 50 tea bag deal up here. Again, I'm using colors. So that's what I want you to do. And then what I did was using a combination of and I show you the 3D. Go to the window menu and let's open up appearance. If I click on this shape, let's see if I can get this appearance over. Click on this shape, okay? You can see that if I click the eyeball here, that is what I have there. It's just that little, what I actually did to get that shape was let me bring this back. It's got to be selected. Bring it back. Okay, what I did was I just took one of these panels. Let me see if I can do it and show you. I can't really because it's all locked in. I just took one of these panels. Actually, I could make one. I'll show you what I did. I went over here and I dragged and I made a panel just like that. Okay, and then I dragged the panel up over here. I demonstrated this last week, by the way. And then what I did was I went to the Effect, 3D, and instead of revolving, I extrude and beveled it. And off axis, I'm just going to leave it the way it is. Click on that. And actually, I think I want to go the other way. Off axis front. I want to go off axis left. Let's see if that's right. Yeah, it's a little too much, though. So let's see if I can isometric left. There, that's not too bad. That gives you an idea. And then basically all I did was I pulled the extrude length out on this thing somewhat. And a little bit more. That's probably pretty good. And if you really want it to look good, you can come in here and you can drag some perspective on it, which I didn't do. So you can make this thing, give this thing some perspective. Okay? Now, I have symbols in here. So that, first of all, I would do that. So let me hit OK, and that's what I got. So now I got my shape. I got my basic shape for my box. Now, if I have my symbols here, notice that I have in here panels. These are some of the panels. Okay? There's my front panel, there's my top panel, there's my back panel, and there's a side panel. So what I did literally was I just took each one of these panels, okay, and I'm going to drag one out so that you can see it. You see what I did? I actually took that panel and I made it into a piece of art that I put into here. And now I can put that on the side of my tea box. And I can delete that. And here's another panel, which I believe is that top panel. See how I made that top panel? Same basic deal. Hit delete. And I think this is the back or the side, one of the sides. Yeah, it's the side panel. There's the side panel. And what I did literally was I just created these graphics, all right? And here's another version of the side panel. This is without the background color, all right? So the reason I did this was so that when I select this object and when I go back into appearance, I'll see if I can do this for you real quick. That's not what I wanted to do. Yeah, so if I click on this and double click on 3D Extrude and Bevel and hit preview and then go to the map art, I can come in here and I can take a look at the sides. Let's see if I can figure out the sides on this. I'm not sure side because it's not showing me very well. Let's see. I think that, let me see. Yeah, I can't tell. Let me see, free. I'm going to try that one. Try putting the front. Nope, the wrong one. Let's go to 4. T. Nope. 4. Come on. Yeah, see, it's not showing me, unfortunately, here. Hold on. There it is. See, now it's showing it to me. Map art. There we go. Now let's try putting the front on that. Whoops. Let's try it now. Wrong panel. Okay, so now we know that it's not that. For some reason, I'm not getting the right, the highlighting isn't working the right way. It's giving me a real tough time here. But see, it's just not giving me the right. What a pain in the neck. Cancel. All right, let's just see if I can do this again. All right, let's see if I can get this thing again. Let's try it one more time. If not, I'm just going to throw it on one of the sides. You get the general idea anyway. See, it's not. I'm not even seeing. What a pain. See, that's the bottom. First surface. Let's see that now. Front. None. Yeah, I can't tell. I'm not seeing the, yeah, see, it's, what a pain. Anyway, you see, there's giving me a little highlight here. The problem is that the highlighting isn't showing. So I'm not able to see the side that I'm working with here. So it's making it just so much of a problem to try to get, see, all right. So there it's on the top. Let's just put it on top so at least you can see what I'm doing. Then I just move it into place, okay? And I hit OK and hit OK. And look it, I've mapped that artwork to one of the surfaces. So ultimately, the bottom line is I didn't map it to the right surface. But that's okay. You get the general idea if that's what you want to do to build that box. I think you should do it because I think it's an exciting part of Adobe Illustrator. And the truth of the matter is it isn't that difficult. And you can easily figure this out and put this together. And I'll tell you something, having this, I'll delete this particular thing, having this kind of a presentation here as opposed to, you know, not this, let's go edit cut, having that kind of a presentation as opposed to this, I mean, this just looks so much better. This whole thing just looks so much better. And this is not that much work. All you have to do really is create a side panel in whatever color that you want to use for it, and then create your 3D box and map a couple of panels of art that become symbols. Again, go into your symbols menu here. And you can see that in the symbols menu, I have my front, my top, my side, and my alternate side. And all I did really was map them onto that. And I get a really nice looking 3D model of the object. Really simple and a great presentation. So that is the assignment. Mine is pretty complex, I admit that, but you know what? I've been a graphic designer now for over 40 years. So, I mean, I probably just have a great deal more skill with this than you guys will at this point. But the bottom line is push yourself. You know, give yourself a challenge. Put something together that's really nice. use the program, learn the program. The program is an incredibly powerful program, and I do believe that you'll enjoy it a great deal. So that's your assignment, and I'll close some of this stuff out. Okay, and okay, and let's go file open, and let's see what else we got in here. Let's go to assessment. Okay, so here's a couple of things. So here's, I showed you this last week. These are the wax melts that I did, and since we're talking about labels, I thought I would show you a couple of projects that I worked on that really involved labels. The product, which is these wax melt candles, this is what they look like over here, and what I was doing was I was preparing labels for them. I was coming up with labels for them. So what I did essentially was I recreated the look of this in Illustrator, and that in Illustrator, and then I actually built the label, and I applied the label. As you can see, I can move it here. I applied the label separately. So again, this is 3D modeling. I mean, or in this particular case, I actually didn't do this with a 3D model program. What I did was this. This is kind of interesting too. I'll come in here and get the ellipse tool, and I'll drag out an ellipse. This is how I did this one. I click on this, make an ellipse, and I made it a color. I think the actual color that I used was a gradient. Let's see if I can get that gradient. There you go. So it's, you see it's a gradient, okay? And what I then did was I come over here and I used the pre-transform tool, and I actually kind of distorted it a little bit, and I kind of rotated it a little bit so that it's sort of like that. All right? And then I notice how I have 4 anchor points to make that circle. So I want this thing to have that kind of scalloped look. And there's an easy way to get that scalloped look. And to do that, what I'm going to do is go to the Object menu, and I'm going to go to Path and add anchor points. You see I've added some anchor points. And I'll do it again. Object, Path, add anchor points. And now I've added anchor points on this. And I've probably got enough anchor points to do it right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Effect menu, and I'm going to go to Distort and Transform, and I'm going to use Pucker and Bloat. And I'm going to preview this, and I'm going to bloat this thing ever so slightly. And you see what it did? I probably overdid it. And this is not the same size as the other. So I'm going to hit OK. So now I'm going to move that over here and deselect it. And you see what I got? I got basically that shape right there. So the next thing that I did, because I wanted this thing, I'm going to get this out of the way here for a second. All right, so the next thing I did to make this thing work is I went Edit Copy, Edit Paste in Place, and I moved it down slightly, and I made it a little bit smaller. Just a little bit smaller. And Object, Arrange, Send to Back. Okay, so now I have one in the front and one in the back. And what I did was I went into the gradient color, and I double-clicked on this color right here, and I darkened it. Okay, which I went too far. That's probably pretty good. Now, again, I'm not going to spend the time to do the thing exactly the way I did it. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set this up. Actually, you know what? Edit Copy. Where are we at here? Edit Copy. This is actually not exactly how I did this. I did that. Okay, yeah, that. And I make it a little bit lighter. And then I clicked on this guy and did this. And let's see, hold on. And then I made that HSB. And I make that a little bit lighter. Oops, that's not right. This is what I want. There. Okay, so now I got those two right there. And this I probably move up a little bit. Yeah, that's probably pretty good. Okay, so now I got 2 objects here. And one of them is just a smaller version of the top one, and this is probably just a little bit too dark, so let me bring that back a little bit. That's probably good right there. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do to make this shape do this is I'm going to go to the Object menu and go to Blend and go Blend Make. Okay, and let's go, wait a minute, actually Edit, Undo. Object, Blend, I'm sorry, I missed one thing, Blend Options. And Smooth Color, let's try Smooth Color. Let's go Specified Steps, and let's set it to 100. And hit OK. And now I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to Object, Blend, Make. And look at that. I end up with something like that. Looks pretty much like what you got there. And then I'll go Edit, Paste in Front, and paste that on front there. I got to move it up a little bit because it got misplaced slightly. And now I got something that looks a little bit like what I have there. That's how I created that particular thing. It kind of comes across looking three-dimensional, but it isn't exactly three-dimensional because it was done slightly differently. There. And again, you know, what you could do with this is come in here and click on this guy, and with your gradient, come into your gradient and play around with this color ever so slightly. Come into HSB and play around with that color a little bit and see if you can get that color. I went way too far with it. Yeah, that's not too bad. Anyway, you get the idea. That's how I did that. And then, of course, to make the label, I just made the label, and then I sort of rotated it slightly and laid it down on top of it, and it's pretty much a square label. I added a little drop shadow to it to give it some reality. So there's one labeling thing that I did, and let's look at another one. All right, so here basically what I did with this, I'll bring it in close and you could see, I actually created that little label, and I actually created that little wire, and I broke the wire apart and made it wrap around my little label. The label is very simple. All it is really is all the label is really a circle with a gradient line on it, and a little bit of text in this particular case, and it would be a die cut label, slightly gradient on it, and you know, again, it's just another graphic label for a project like this, which is essentially a little candle in the shape of a Christmas ornament. And then, of course, the label is part of it, so now you've got a total picture, total package, something that looks really very professional. All this can be done very easily with Adobe Illustrator, and I think with practice and a little bit of experience, you guys will be able to do this all by yourself. So again, I'm showing you a couple of things, hoping that you get inspired looking at it. Let's see if there's another one. L'Amour. This is one of these L'Amour. Yeah, here we go. This is kind of cool. So I got three things going on here. There's actually, let's go View Fit All in Window. So I got three artboards, and the first one here, let's see if I can find my artboard panel. Where's my artboards? I don't think I have them out. There. Yeah, so card front, there's my card front. And essentially, what I got going on here is two things. Number one, I got a heart-shaped card. You can see in order to make this work, I have to fake it a little bit, and I have to keep that centerpiece connected so it folds over. So I got a heart-shaped card, which is perforated. It's got like holes in it, and then this is the product, which would be little baby wiping towels, and then this bow which ties around it, and then of course this little tiny hang tag which is pinned into the bow by one of those little plastic pins that they use. And then go to the back, hard back. Oh, no, that's not it. There it is. There's the card back. The name's wrong. So what I did was essentially the area on the front that's white, I just basically made that a rectangle as well. So this is the actual card front. And then this is the piece, if it were sitting up straight, it would be a long rectangle that would go up. That folds over, and then it just basically has the branding on the back, L'Amour by Baby Kiss. And then at the bottom, you'd have your little barcode. Real simple. And I think you get to see here how this thing actually has little punches here, and then this little bow, which is hand-tied around the product. So that is a label or a hang tag or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's really a package, a piece of packaging, but it's kind of like a little bit of everything in one thing. Then the next one that I have over here is this guy here, which is the same product, the same basic bow, only in this case it's actually an extruded tube, a clear plastic extruded tube that has the branding, the labeling on the actual tube with the product inside. And then these little caps, which are, you know, molded caps. This has got a hole in it, and then the little hanging device goes through the top. And this thing just basically hangs on a shelf as well. And if we go to the back has basically an adhesive-backed white label that's applied to the back with the branding, and then of course your barcoding on it. So another piece of packaging which is a little bit different. And then another way to go would be to actually create a transparent or clear plastic, and you can see it's not totally clear, but I mean, given the circumstances, that's the object, is it's a clear package. But it's a square, a clear square container, once again printed with graphics. The bow is applied, the product is inside, and then the top and bottom pieces are manufactured and applied to it. And then the back, you have the same thing, where you have a label that is applied to the back. So again, the reason I'm showing you this is because part of the project that you're going to be working on will be labeling, and essentially I believe you're going to be working on a wine bottle. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working on labeling and a hang tag for that wine bottle. So that's where we're heading right after this. But I just wanted to show you a few other projects that I actually worked on where this very same thing was taking place. And just so that you know, I mean, this thing was created, this package was created in the 3D modeling, Illustrator 3D modeling. So was this. This is a revolve, and that was an extrude. And I mean, it's just amazing, the stuff that you can do with it. I have a website now where I use quite a bit of it on my website. If you're interested, when you look at my emails, when I send you the emails, my web address is on the emails. Feel free to go take a look at my website and see all the objects that I created on that website. Almost every one of them were created in Adobe Illustrator 3D modeling. Several of them were not. Several of them are just very creative, flat pieces of art. Like I think there's a phone, there's like a cell phone, and there's a one of those, not a computer, but one of those, what do they call those things? I can't think of what the names of them are right now. But anyway, you can go and take a look at the site. You got the address on mine. Take a look at it. You can see it. I've created things like, pens, pencils, markers, and highlighters. All those things were created using Adobe 3D. It looks almost like I used pictures, but none of them are pictures. They are from pictures. I use pictures as guides, but every single one of them were created using Adobe 3D modeling and applying of the symbols to the surfaces. Like I say, it's terrific fun, and I hope to inspire you to learn more about the program and really get plugged into it, because you'll find it to be amazingly valuable through the course of your career. So I'll close that, and close, and don't save it. No, I didn't do anything to it. And let's open a few. Let's go File, Open. Let's come in. Let's open the Open that. Okay, let's go File, Open, and open that. No, I got that one already. File, Open, let's see here. Let's open that. There we go. File, Open. Let's say Label, Open. There we go. Well, that's the same one, isn't it? Yep, it's the same one. File, Open. Let's see what else they got here. Wine bottle. There we go. And File, Open. Label tag, Open. Open. There we go. That's what we want. Okay, so let's start with this. There was one other one that's missing here. Hold on, let me just quickly look. Candle wax melts rose. Label, wine bottle, label. Let's go up. Where is it? Required elements. One's missing. One is missing. Assessment. Oh well. I don't know. One is missing. So anyway, here's what we got. Actually, I think I know what it is. Let's go View, Fit All in Window. Yeah, okay. All right, so basically, let's start off by looking at this. All right, so basically what you have here is the artwork that you're going to find, that you're going to work on. The label is 3 by 5, 4 by 2.5, or by 0.25, and then your hang tag is 3 by 3. I suppose it wouldn't bother me terribly if you decided that you wanted to change the size slightly on these things, as I did myself, but it's up to you. I mean, if you want to just stay with the size the way they are, you go right ahead and do that. If you want to modify them slightly, that's probably okay with me. I'm not a stickler for that. What I'm most concerned about is that you understand what you're doing. So I created some layers here to show you what's going on. This is the text layer, all right? And I really don't have anything on the text layer. It's all in the base layer, so I don't know. I didn't finish moving it. You got margins, okay? There's your margin. Oh, I did it on this one, I think. That's what it is. I didn't do it on this one. That's what it is. Let me zoom in on this. Okay, so here's your text layer, all right? And then you got this margin. Notice that the margin is in blue, and it's a safe zone. No text beyond this line. Now, you can bleed, which means essentially you can take whatever element you want to go off the page to that red line, and you can bleed anything you want to that red line. The trim line, which is right here, that's that kind of purpley color. There's your trim line. Okay? The trim line indicates where the actual piece is going to cut out of the larger piece of paper. Now notice that they also include a punch and a trim for that. That will be the area where you'll punch your hang tag. So that's that there as well. And the bleed is there. There's your bleed. Okay, notice that there's crop marks out there as well. So the important thing for you to understand is, and let's zoom this out. Let's go View, Fit Art, All in Window. Both of these guys have the same thing. They both have the bleed, and they have the margin, and they have the trim. Okay? So it's very important for you to understand and to use those areas. Read carefully what it's telling you. Any elements that prints to the edge of a printed piece must extend to this line. So you're going to bleed these elements. If it's going to run off the page or run to the edge of the page, make sure that it's big enough to go to that line so that you get a proper cutout when you trim it. And of course, the trim line goes to that line right there, which is the purpley line, safe zone. Whatever you do not want to go near the edge of your page, make sure it goes no further than that safe zone right there. So very important that you do that. Okay? Let's see what we got here. Let's go to this. So what I did was I created this is my hang tag, and this is my label. And you'll see in a minute what I did with it. But basically, I went in and I found a brand called Rosé Seco, and I basically put this together. My concept was, let me go to the wine bottle. My concept was this, that my label would look very much like that. It would be basically what's in here. As a matter of fact, this is my label. This is the actual label that I use. It's right there. Check it out. And I don't know whether that's locked or not. Let's see. It is. It's locked. Let me unlock that later. Okay, so here, look, this is what I did. And I'm going to show you how I did this. Basically, what I did was I imagined that this label would be pad printed or screen printed onto the bottle. And it would be printed in white onto the bottle. So I had to figure out a way to make this thing work. Now watch. I'm going to make a black shape, and I'm going to drag out a rectangular shape. And object, arrange, send to back. So you see what I got here? I got a symbol where this is a compound path, where all of my letters are essentially cut out of this white area. So when you put this thing on top of something, this bottle, for instance, which I created, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute, I created this bottle, and using a symbol, I applied that to the surface of my bottle, and I end up making that 3D bottle. This is the actual bottle that I used. I found this bottle online, and that's my recreation of my bottle. And again, this is not that difficult to do. I'm going to show you how I did it in a minute. I'll show you how I do it, but I want to start off by talking about this first, because this is important. So let me go back to my rosé. Okay, so take a look at what I got here. I got that lettering there. I got that lettering there. Now, this lettering here, you can see I've gone in and I've created outlines on that. This is no longer live text. I've actually created outlines to get that. This here is still live text. You can tell it's live text because underneath it, it has that line, which means it's live text. So in order for me to turn this thing into a label, I got to do a couple of things. The other thing too is I got this guy right here, which is a stroke. And I want you to look at this and see that it is in fact a stroke. So in order for me to turn this thing, into what I have on the other page, I have to do a couple of things. Like for instance, I have to start off by creating a white rectangle. So I start off by creating a white rectangle, just like that. Okay, and I'm going to make it white with no stroke. And again, object, arrange, send to back. So now I have a white rectangle. That is the basis of what I'm going to use to create my my label that I'm using, which is that screen printed label. So the next thing I need to do is I got to come in here and I have to take that text, and it can't be regular text. So I have to go to the type menu and I have to go create outlines. And now I've created outlines on this thing. I'm going to go object ungroup. Okay, and now I have a series of individual graphic shapes. So now I've got that done. The next thing I got to do is I got to take this, and it can't be a stroke because I can't cut a shape like that. Let me make that 4 points, make it a little bit thicker. I can't cut that shape as a stroke. So what I have to do is I have to turn that into an object as well. So let me zoom in here and show you this so that you get a sense of what I'm really doing here. Right now, I have that stroke right there, and there's my path with the stroke on it. What I want to do is I want to outline that stroke. I want to turn that stroke into a graphic shape. So while I got this selected, I'm going to go to the object menu, and I'm going to go to path, and I'm going to go outline stroke. So object, path, outline stroke. Now watch what happens to this when I click outline stroke. You see what it did? It turned it into a graphic shape. Very slick. So now what I can do is I can start punching all kinds of holes into that shape right there. I got all these things sitting in front. So I'm going to go View, Fit Artboard and Window. And I'm going to start by holding down the Shift key. And I'm going to go to the Window menu. And I could do this, I could actually do this another way, but this is easier, I think. Go to Window. Pathfinder and minus front. And now if I create a shape in the background, watch what I'm going to do so that you can see this as it works. I'm going to go Object, Arrange, Send to Back, and I'm going to make this red so you can see it. There. Okay, now watch as I make this. So right away, can you see what it did? It actually cut a hole in that background. So now I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go Object, Ungroup, and I'm going to see if I can make these into one piece. So I got all four of them selected, and using the same Pathfinder, I'm going to unite them. Now I got one piece. And if I hold down the Shift key and choose that background area, I think I might actually want to go in with the group selection tool on this one. Let's try it again. Let's select that. This is a little bit trickier to do. And then select that. Okay, and now I'm going to go minus front. Okay, perfect. You see how that worked? So basically now what I'm doing essentially is I'm removing the black area and I'm creating a white printed label. That's actually what this is going to end up being. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to select this guy, Shift that guy, Shift, Shift, and Shift. And I'm going to use the Pathfinder to unite them. And then once again, hold down this group selection tool, Shift select that, and let's see if I can make this work. Boom. There you go. Look at that. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to do. So now, if you take a look at this, I've got my screen or pad printed label. That's exactly how I created my label to go on my bottle. Again, when you actually create yours, you probably don't have to go to the steps that I went to unless you actually want to create a bottle and you want to put this on the bottle and you want it to be pad printed or screen printed like the way I did. That's exactly what this is. So there it is. That's how I did this. And all this can be done in Adobe Illustrator very easy. There's just a few little things that you need to know to do it. And basically, you've got it done. This is now one piece. If I click on this guy anywhere, you'll see that the whole thing, actually, I'm sorry, now it looks like it's ungrouped. So now I'm going to go, actually, let's combine it. There. Okay, so now that should be one piece. It is. So now you've got one piece. This whole white thing here is one piece. Then what I did to make this thing finished, I clicked and I selected this thing, and I dragged it in. And I'm going to call this my pad label. And it is actually a graphic, and hit OK. And now it's in there. And if I delete that, okay, and actually, may have a problem. Let's see. Yeah, I do. Edit, undo. Let's go edit, undo clear. Let's undo clear. Let's undo new symbol. Because you see, I missed two things. I got to actually select them as well. And now what I got to do is go to the Pathfinder. Go to Pathfinder. And let's combine them all. There. Okay, now I think I got it. I missed two little things. No big deal. Let's open this back up. Click on it. And drag it in. And again, call this pad. And it's not a movie clip. It is a graphic, and hit OK. And now I'm going to delete this. And if I drag this thing out, I can position it. And I have actually now created the symbol that I use. Okay, and I didn't really place it very well, but you get the general idea. Place it. There's your symbol. That's the symbol that you're going to be using when you create your, when your bottle is created and you want to put the label on it. So let's, hopefully you understand all that. Let's get rid of that. No. And let's close this because I think you get the general idea about this. No. Okay, let's go to this because this is very interesting. So here's what I'm going to do. Start off, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to move this whole thing out of the way. Okay? And I am going to give you an idea of how I did this. what I did essentially was I came in here and I brought this piece of art in, which is a bottle that I found. And I went Object Lock Selection, and I locked it down. I then used my pen tool, and I'll move this over to show you. I went and I created a half of that bottle by drawing it. Now, I want you to look at this, how I did this, because this is quite interesting. I created this bottle in 4 sections. I did the top section right here. And how did I do this? I really, all I did was this. Watch, I'll show you quickly how I did this. Just got the pen tool. Notice that I got a center line here. Can you see the guide, the center line guide? Okay, so I click here in the center line guide, and then I come over to here and I click. Oops, guess I didn't get that click. Hold on. Let's see if I can fix that. Let's try it again. Get the pen tool. This time let me click and get it. Click. Okay, and then I'm going to come over to about here. Click, and I'm going to drag to create a line that does that. Click, and then I'm going to come down to, let's actually make it a little bit rounder here. That's good. Okay, I'm probably not going to do as good of a job with this as I did with the other, because I'm not going to spend the time. And then I'll come in here and click like that, and then I'll come in here and click like that, and then I'll come over here to the line in the middle and click like that. Okay, and then that's it. There is more or less how I did that. Okay, that's basically what I did to create that bottle. And you can see up here I was a little sloppy with it, but you get the general idea. I just kind of went in here and I traced the edge of this. You don't have to trace the whole thing, because the program is actually going to physically make this thing for you. And if you want to modify this, you would actually get the direct selection tool, click on your points, and you could come in here and you could modify these points a little bit. And see, that looks a little bit better. See how I made that look a little bit better? And there's still a little bit of funkiness going on here. Maybe I'll come in a little closer with this. You know, because again, the amount of effort that you put into this will determine whether this thing looks any good or not. And this thing here, I probably want to just bring it down a little bit. And maybe even a little bit more. And this guy here, get a little bit back. That's better. Now, there. Okay, so that is all there is to it. You're going to come in, you're going to draw that top. Then you're going to draw a little tiny bit of bottle here. So let me come over and show you. So I'm going to come over here, and I drew the top, and then I drew this little tiny bit of bottle. And actually, this is the unfinished piece. The actual bottle needs to have sides on it as well. So what I'm going to do is come over here and click on this, and then I'm just going to come over to here and click on that. And then I'm going to deselect it, and then I'm going to do the same thing. Click it again, and then come over here with the pen tool, click on that point, and bring that line over to, I don't know, like maybe here. Okay. So now basically what I have is I have this bottle top area. I have the top of the actual bottle. This is the actual applied cap. This is the actual bottle. And then this is Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Okay. I didn't get it. Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. There we go. Okay, so, and then down at the very bottom here, I have the bottom area as well. And again, if you take a look at this bottle, let's go zoom out. Zoom out. And zoom out. Let's get it to where I can see the whole thing for you, if I can do that. Zoom out. And keep going. One more time. Now we got it. There we go. Okay, so now we've got our bottle here. So the important thing for you to understand about this is that this is the topmost object. Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. That's the topmost object. That's the object that's in front of everything else. Then the next object is this. So it's this first, then this, and then these two guys right there. Okay? And if you put these things in a proper order, and if you select them all, and if you do your revolve on this, you're going to end up with a bottle that looks very much like that. And then you can do some work with the actual bottle, the actual lighting of the bottle, and you can apply this graphic. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off, since I drew that for you, I'm going to revolve that first. So I'm going to go over to the Effect menu. I'm going to go to 3D, and I'm going to go Revolve. And in this particular case, I'm just looking for a side view. So I'm going to come over and I'm going to go to the front view, okay? And I'm going to hit Preview. And you see what it did? It actually revolved my object around. And look at that. There is the actual cap part of that. That's how simple it is to do. It's amazing. Now I'm going to show you the whole thing. After I built this whole thing, I'm going to show you what it looks like to get that right there. So I'm going to select this whole thing just like that. And again, go to the View menu, Effect menu, 3D, and Revolve. And this time, again, come in here and grab Front. And I'm going to preview this. And there you have it, okay? Again, I have to move things around a tiny bit to get it looking exactly right. And I have to play with the colors, and I have to play with the lighting. But that's how you actually start the project. Now, as far as putting the label on this, you do that with the mapping, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to come in here and you're going to play around with these surfaces. Now, this is working, so you can see the surfaces. Watch what happens. As I go down, you're going to see it's going to show me the surfaces. And it's actually not again. I'm having trouble with it again. Be damned. You know what? Actually, hit cancel. I know what I'm going to do. Hit cancel, or hit OK. Okay, now let's see if I can grab this guy. Maybe if I can just grab this one thing. And let's go to the window, and let's go to Appearance. And I just got the one section selected. And I'm going to double-click on Revolve, and I'm going to hit Preview. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into Map Art on that. And let's see if I can now make this work with the Map Art. Come down. Come down. There we go. There we go. That's what we're looking for. I believe that's the back side. So let's keep going down, and let's see if I can bring it up to the front. There we go. And I think if I come in here and hit Label, boom, look at that. There's the label. So now what I got to do is I got to move this onto the front surface, and I have to scale it and make it the right size. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just drag this thing down tiny. And that's probably pretty good. Bring it down to about here. Look at that. Not too bad. Not too bad. I might have to, just pull it out just a tiny bit to get it to look a slight bit right. But that's not too bad. Look at that. Really simple. And then you just place it wherever you want it. There we go. I think I like it right about like that. Bring it down a little bit. And maybe over. The one thing I don't like about this is you got to move this by hand. You really can't. So I'm going to hit OK on that. And then the other thing that you have is you can come into more options, and you can start playing around with lights. So what I can do is I can add another light, and I can move that light over to here, and I can come in with and play around with settings like intensities. See how I can make the intensities? I can drop the ambient light on it. See? And I see how I'm making this thing go darker around the edges. Again, you can just play and play and play with these settings. See that? I mean, it's incredible. And then when I get all done with it, I can come in and I can go, okay. And now I have my bottle, and all I have to do really is maybe move that over a touch. And I think I'm probably pretty good. There. That gives you a general idea of how I did this. And then, of course, with a little bit of work, I'm just going to move this out of the way. With a little bit of work, you actually end up with something like this. And there's a couple of things that I just want to point out to you is that there's some actual pieces on top here. See, I got a piece that I created there. See that? It's a highlight. And down in here at the bottom, there's a couple of things that I created. See? But in the context of this bottle, the way I got it done, it looks more like that. And I end up with something that looks very much like a bottle. a really convincing looking bottle. There we go. Look at that. So, I mean, I really had a lot of fun doing this. And I do believe that if you mess with this, you'll have fun doing it as well. So that's the bottom line. And I think I have one more here I can show you. Yeah, here's another version of the bottle. Let me close all this. Here's another version of the bottle. In this particular case, what I did was I produced my labels. Here are my labels. This is a slightly different version. I think this is the first way I did it. I got my layers locked. So what I did in this particular case is I actually created my bottle, and I created a back label. Here's the back label, which would be applied to the back of this bottle. This is the front label, which would be applied to the front of it. And then this is the actual hang tag. And again, what I did with the hang tag is essentially I brought the hang tag in, and I came up here and positioned it, and I ran this little wire that I created, which is basically a line that I cut apart and modified and have it so that it actually looks like that is hanging right off of my bottle. Go to the View menu, fit artboard and window, fit all in window, I should say. Fit all in window, there. And again, this is the way I would have handed in my assessment, where I have basically my hang tag and my two labels, front and back label. Do you have to make two labels? No, you don't have to make two labels. You only have to make one label, but I made two because, again, a lot of these bottles have front and back, and you can see I just basically, what I did, I just went online, very much like what you're going to do. I went online and I found myself some graphics, I found myself some, actually some graphics of wine labels, and I read the copy that went with the graphics of wine labels, and then I just copied and pasted into a Word doc, and I played around with it a little bit and modified it so that it works. And then, of course, you got a government warning there, which I think is very common. You find that on most bottles of wine somewhere or another. So I put a government warning on it, and then I guess just to put www.roseco.com, I put that on there because that's something that you might see. And then, of course, uncork this bottle of wine. You know, this is just the kind of stuff that you would see on this. And a very common thing for this would be to have the barcode on it. Although the box, you'll see next week when you actually do this project in its entirety, you'll see the actual box that I created for this as well. But the bottom line is that this week you're going to go in and you're going to play around with your tee box, and then your assessment will be working on your bottle label and your bottle hang tag. So I would just say, you know, if you feel inspired to do this, give it a try. Go in and get yourself a bottle. You can go online very easily and find yourself a bottle that is just a regular blank bottle, very much like this. They're very common to find them online. I had no trouble finding that bottle. And then I just brought the bottle in, and using the basic pen tool and a little knowledge about the 3D modeling environment in Illustrator, which really is incredibly simple. I mean, this is not hard. You saw how I did this, and it was very reliable the way it did it. It didn't give me any trouble really at all. You know, it's a little bit difficult for me to talk to you at the same time I'm trying to do this, and I stumble here and there because of that. But it's very simple to do most all this stuff, especially if you have a clear idea of what it is that you're doing before you begin to do it. So you really shouldn't have too much trouble with any of this. Again, you'll probably struggle a little bit with creating these 3D objects at first because you've got to get used to the environment. But I got to tell you, if you don't go in and try to do it, if you don't actually go in and play with it and learn it a little bit, you're just missing out on a whole area of this program, which is excellent. just amazing stuff that you can do. Another suggestion I have for you, if you want to learn more about doing this 3D modeling, you don't want to spend any money, just go to YouTube and look up 3D Revolve and 3D Extrude in YouTube. And there'll be all sorts of cool videos that you can come up and watch, and they will demonstrate this for you, and you'll be able to get a sense of how it works. I mean, again, you've got me here for an hour and 45 minutes or an hour and 40 minutes talking to you, whereas there it's going to be maybe a 6 to 8 minute video. So you don't have to literally try to zoom through here to figure out where the part you wanted to see was. Go to YouTube and take a look at YouTube. Look for 3D. It's right here, Effect 3D, and there's two of them. 3D Extrude and Bevel. That's what you use when you're working with a rectangular shape. So if I had this shape right here, I'd go Effect 3D, Extrude and Bevel, and hit Preview, and boom, the object's extruding. And then, of course, you know, I can just go crazy and make the thing whatever I want. And then, of course, with the object over here, this is basically if you come in and go to Window Pathfinder Appearance. I'm sorry, and this is something that's absolutely important for you to understand when you're working with the 3D, either the 3D Revolve or 3D Extrude and Bevel. Once you get a revolve or an extrude on an object, you never go back up to the effect menu back to this. Never. Don't ever do it. Whenever you want to come in and edit this thing, click on the object on your desktop, go into the appearance panel, and I'll show you how you hide it. I've just hidden it. And to put it back, since it's still in the appearance, just click the eyeball and it comes back just like that. And if I want to go in and I want to modify it, I just double click on this and it brings me back into the 3D environment where I can come down. It's awful big suddenly. Hit Preview, and now I'm previewing my Revolve again, and I can go in and I can play around with this all that I want, okay, and have fun with it. So that's the most important thing for you to understand, is that not only do you need to be aware that you're working with your effects in the effects panel, 3D, Extrude and Bevel or Revolve, but once you get this thing rolling, you have to work with the appearance panel. The appearance panel is another very important thing for you all, and you should get used to it, and you should know what it's for. It's basically very helpful for you because it's kind of like a history panel in a way in Adobe Photoshop. The only difference is the history panel at the end of the work, whenever you're working on something, whenever you close the file, the history gets erased. Whereas with the appearance panel basically will record all the things that you've done to the object, and it doesn't go away. In other words, if I close this file and open it back up, whatever I have in the history panel here, and then the other thing I have is Inner Glow. I don't know what that actually did. Can you see anything from that? It's very subtle. I guess you can't really see too much from it. But I have Inner Glow and I have 3D Revolve. Oh, you know what it is? I know what it is. I don't have the thing selected. That's why. Okay, if I click this off, let's see what it does. Yeah, see how that lightened it up? What I did was I used the Inner Glow as actually an inner shadow. That's what I did. I made it a little bit darker. Actually, it don't look too bad with it off. Well, it don't look too bad either. There. Now, I got one more thing that I'll show you, which I think is probably worth having you look at. And I think to do that, let's go back to this. Yeah, all right, so let's show you one more thing. Let me drag this over here. All right, so you see this effect that I have going on here? And I got that effect over here. See it? The bottle down at the bottom that's reflecting. I just want to show you how I did that. So let's go. Let's select this whole thing. I can't. I gotta get just that bottle. I don't want that label. Did I get it? Yeah. Let's go Object Group. Okay. And now let's bring it over here. Did I lose my? Hold on. Did I not put? I thought I put that on there. I don't know why I lost that. Well, it doesn't matter really. It's not that important to this. Okay. Let me just group it. That's not that important that the label's not on there. Okay, bring it over here and go Object Group. Okay, so what I want to do here, I've done it on this one. I want to show you how I create this drop shadow. I don't know whether I showed you that last week or not, but I want to show you how I create that drop shadow. So what I do essentially, now that I got this grouped, I'm going to go Edit Copy, Edit Paste and Back. So now I've copied and pasted this bottle and back. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to use the Reflect tool. So I double click on the Reflect tool. And what I want to do is I want to preview this. I want to, you know what, hit cancel. I have to go Object, Expand Appearance. There we go. All right, and now I can do it. Now I can go Preview, see. And oh, I want it to go horizontal. There we go. Hit OK. Okay, you have to expand the background one if you're going to do this. And look at this. Oddly enough, do you see what happened? My label came back. Doesn't matter really. It's no big deal. I don't know why the one's missing on there. So I'm going to bring this thing all the way down to the bottom like this. Okay, sort of like that. So what I want to do is I want this to appear like it's a shadow that's being reflected off of the surface below. So I'm going to go zoom out a couple of times so I can get a better look at this. Zoom out. There we go. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to get the rectangle tool. And I'm going to make a rectangle that covers my entire bottle, like about like that. And I'm going to put a gradient on it. So let's first click on the gradient. And I don't want that gradient. What I want is a simple black and white gradient. Let's click that off, and let's click that off, and let's bring that over to here, and let's bring that right to about 50. 50. That's good. Okay, and let's make that, let's say 90. Okay. All right, so now what I got is, and I'm going to go Edit, Cut, and then I'm going to select the bottle in the back and go Edit, Paste in Front. Okay, so now what I have is I have this guy sitting in front, and I have my two other objects right here, which is my bottle that's upside down and this gradient. So now I'm going to go to the window menu, and I'm going to go to the transparency, and I'm going to bring this over, and I'm going to make opacity mask. And I have opacity mask, but the opacity mask is heading in the wrong direction. So I can click on Invert Mask, and now all I got to do is making sure that this is selected. I'm going to come to my gradient, and I'm going to actually start playing around with my settings here. And I'm going to make this kind of disappear until I get it where I want it. I want it to be very, very soft and very light right at the bottom, and that's just about what I'm looking for. So what it is basically is that white conceals, black reveals. So now if you take a look at what I did, I'm going to deselect this. You can see that I basically made that cool looking reflection. And if I want to make it even sizzle more, what I'll do is come in here and zoom in, and then I'll come over here and I'll grab my ellipse tool, and I'll come over and I'll make an ellipse sort of like this, and I'll make that in black with no white stroke, of course. And then what I'm going to do is, I got to actually go Edit, Cut. Hold on. Yeah, and then I got to go back into this. All right, and what I'm going to do is select this and go Edit, Paste, and Back. Boom. Okay, so now I got that little guy, and I'm going to come up to the Effects menu, and I'm going to come down to Stylize. Oh, wait a minute. Effects, Blur, sorry, Gaussian Blur. Effects, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And I'll come over here and hit Preview, and then I'm just going to start pulling this out until I reach something like that. That's probably pretty good. Hit OK. And then if I want, I can come in here and go Multiply, and I can lighten it somewhat. And now when I go View, Fit Artboard and Window, Look at that. Looks pretty good. And if I want, if that's too low, I can move it up and get it up a little bit. And now I've got something that looks like it's actually sitting on a table and reflecting from the table. I mean, all this is like very simple to do. It is the kind of thing you have to know how to do it, but it's all very simple to do. And it's just a matter of knowing in your mind what you want to accomplish and realizing that this program has the ability to do it all for you. So I hope you've enjoyed what I've done for you tonight. I'm basically done. If I had you here, I'd have you do some questioning with me, but unfortunately I don't. So I'm going to let it go for now. What I will do is I will remind you, though, that tomorrow night, not tomorrow night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday, I will be in Blackboard, and my schedule for Blackboard is an announcement. So if you would like to stop by, please feel free to do so. Good luck with your projects, and I guess I'll talk to you next week.